Hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. I am your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the Twitters at CalebVU8. It is right down there in the bottom right-hand corner if you are on the YouTube's links to that. And the old, what's it called? Well, I guess I got a link to a Spotify. Also got an email down there, but it's all in the description. It's all in the description there for your leisure whenever you feel like scrolling down there. Outside of that, hey man, we got a college football episode today. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Today was not a good day. It at no point got better. It just progressively went downhill most of the day, and then kind of leveled out at the bottom, I would say, to end things off, and then kind of took another dip. Not too long ago. So yeah, I did not feel like doing an episode today. I did not feel like talking on the microphone, but good news for you all. Shout out to my mama because she didn't raise no big baby back bitch. Nailed it. So we're doing an episode today. College football week 10, baby. Come on, if you can't get excited about that, what can you get excited about? First playoff rankings, buddy. We're in the green right now, baby. I mean, life could not be any better. Well, it could be better, but hey, you keep you chasing great at the expense of good, and sometimes you get neither. So hey, right now we gotta be grateful for what we have here in this life, and what we do have is college football. So with that, I got a couple bets for you. Also, a quick little hit it up top. Minus 3.5 for the Lions. Didn't get it at 3. Did not place that bet on Monday night whenever I recorded. Just placed it today on Wednesday as I'm recording now. So yeah, minus 3.5. I'm a man of integrity. So that's where I got the number. That is what we are going to make the pick. So not ideal, but it is what it is, folks. It simply is what it is. I got, 6 more of those to add. Another night, not even, but 7 picks for this coming week. So that'll be at the end of the episode after we recap. But yeah, on the subject of that recap, let me just get a swig of Gatorade. Nothing like ice cold Gatorade, man. I'll tell you what. Sorry, yellow electrolyte drink. You don't know if Gatorade's gonna pay us. Yeah. Okay. So, with that, let's get into week 10, folks. Let's just get on into week 10. We'll just go, right down the list. Actually, you know what? There is one big looming matchup that probably shouldn't have been at noon. Big noon kickoff does need to be outlawed in some respects, but hey, you can't control where the games are unless you're the schedule makers, and I am not one of those schedule makers. So we got the big matchup of the week. Not really another big matchup, so we're going to hit this one up top. Ohio State, number 4 team in the nation, went on the road, big noon kickoff at Penn State, and maybe I was a little hyperbolic, okay? I don't want to outlaw big noon kickoff. They just need to stop doing the things that they do sometimes. Specifically on a week with no other marquee names or games rather, as normal people say. Maybe we just put this one in the night slot so people have something to look forward to all day instead of, blowing our load early. Pardon the euphemism there. And then just having solid enough games the rest of the day. Nothing for the casuals to look forward to, though. That's the unfortunate part about all this. But they did play the game, and you know what? If you were betting based on the trends of the last 15 years, give or take, really just however long James Franklin has been at Penn State, then you won once again. Ohio State beat Penn State 20-13. They improved to 7-1. Penn State sustains their first loss of the season. All is not lost by any stretch of the imagination, folks, and we're going to get to a big part of why here at the end of this episode when we go over the old college football playoff rankings that just came out here on Tuesday night. Also, what else happened on Tuesday night? I don't know. I mean, there's some things that were going on, There's some interesting things. Many of you probably had a late night on Tuesday night if you're listening from the United States. So, outside of that, I mean, hey, Maction was on. Who cares about the other stuff going on? There's Maction on TV, folks. Yeah. Yeah, Ohio State goes on the road, beats Penn State. Penn State still ranked very highly. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But I feel like the main consensus from the rational people in college football and just college sports in general when reacting to this game kind of thought about this, and there was a question after the game that, hey, should Penn State move on from James Franklin? They've reached the ceiling and they just can't get past the hump with Ohio State in particular, Michigan too, but that's a lesser factor this year with the regression year for Michigan. We'll see how it goes from here, but yeah, not much of a concern this year for Michigan. But Ohio State still the one bugaboo left on the schedule for you. And it just doesn't work out again in a year where Ohio State has looked vulnerable for much of it. I mean, they lost to Oregon. I mean, they got in a dogfight with Nebraska at home. They're, every opportunity. And Penn State gets this at home. Attendance record set for Penn State in a place that's known for its home atmosphere. The environment is raucous. You jump out to a 10-0 lead. All of the momentum is on your side, and you still find a way to get outscored 20-3 down the stretch, and ultimately seal this thing for Ohio State. It's just baffling to me. And honestly, it's baffling to a lot of people out there. I'd say the fan base, I'd say the vast majority of the fan base is kind of just like, look, Penn State, they are where they are. James Franklin, he is who he is. You fire James Franklin, then you do what, though? Do you go get an upgrade somewhere? Because, I mean, short of maybe Kurt Signetti, if you can swing that one this offseason, I'm not sure there's really a higher ceiling guy out there. At least there's no better guaranteed option than James Franklin right now. So I don't think you move on from James Franklin. I think you just kind of live with this and hope one of these years it all comes together for a one shot and you make a run at a title. Barring that, there's just not a whole lot of better options right now. I'm not sure there really is a better option that they can go out and get right now. So, yeah, James Franklin probably staying put in that one. There is a growing ire with him, though, as far as not being able to win these games. There is pressure on him job-wise. From some factions of the fan base, people that are very angry and very big Penn State fans, not necessarily thrilled with the results against Ohio State, really for any of the years, but certainly this year, not a great time, not a great time to be James Franklin, and they don't appreciate that, quite obviously. So Penn State, they're going to be all right. This 12-team playoff was basically made for a team like Penn State, who's just, can't quite get over that hump, but hey, we're gonna include you anyways. You're within spitting distance of the 14 playoffs, so let's just bump that thing threefold, and then voila, you're in the postseason, and you can add that to the resume and use it for a contract extension down the line. Cool, whatever. So Penn State still fine. I'm jumping all over the place today, man. It's been a long day. As far as Ohio State though. Hey, they are in the catbird seat right now. They get through Penn State. Got to see what's left in the schedule. Obviously, that Indiana game is looming coming up here. I don't believe it's this week. No, they're playing Purdue this week. In 2 weeks' time, though, they will face off against Indiana at home, and that is going to be the biggest matchup left on the schedule. Obviously, Michigan, last week of the year. Big matchup for sure. However, this year, Ohio State, I'll just put it to you this way: if Ohio State doesn't beat Michigan this year, they might fire Ryan Day on the spot. I don't see how you survive that if you're Ryan Day if you lose to this Michigan team when you have that Ohio State team. So that'll be something to monitor, something to look forward to. That Indiana game though, that's the big one because they got Purdue this coming week at home, and they're at Northwestern. They should probably win both of those with ease. Should, the operative word there in that sentence. Indiana, though, that's the one toss-up. And I know Indiana hasn't really played anyone so far this year, but they beat the hell out of all of them. And that's got to scare the hell out of you if you're an Ohio State team. But at the same time, maybe you welcome this. Because, I mean, looking back at the schedule, obviously you played Oregon and you lost. You got close to winning, but ultimately you lost. Then you win against Penn State on the road. Penn State on the road, obviously, best win on the schedule. But those are the only two ranked teams that Ohio State has played. And Indiana is going to be the last ranked team that they play. None of those other teams left in the schedule are going to sniff the top 25 when this whole thing is said and done, or certainly not by the time that they play in whatever weeks they play, respectively. So they kind of need that Indiana win. I mean, if they lose to Indiana, I get it, they're Ohio State, and ultimately it's probably going to be a moot point because the brand name alone is going to get them to the postseason if they're on the borderline. But if we're just looking at this rationally, you lose to Indiana at home, your only ranked win is Penn State. Now, granted, that's a hell of a ranked win right there. Nothing to sneeze at for sure. But outside of that, I mean, you got a close, I guess you can call it a good loss to Oregon. It's on the road, and you played them right down to the wire, so there is that, but there's just not a whole lot of meat on the schedule outside of those games. So, hey, they need to win that Indiana game. 2 losses, it's not a guarantee. Now, if they get to the Big Ten championship, signed, sealed, delivered, this thing is over. They're going to they're going to ultimately go to the playoff, but it's not a foregone conclusion if they lose to Indiana that they will go to the playoff. Now that's a lock if Indiana wins that game that they're going to go to the playoff. But on the other hand, yeah, you don't want to lose that game. It's kind of a must win for both teams. I would say more so for Ohio State than Indiana, though. It is still a must win for Indiana when you look at the rest of their schedule, but I would say it is as much, if not more, crucial for Ohio State to win that game. We'll see how it goes, though. I don't know what I even opened there. The second time today where I'm just on the computer and I do something, and I don't know how I did it, but I want it undone. That being said, let's keep it moving. We'll double back to Friday night, go through the top 25 here real quick, just hit it chronologically. So San Diego State at Boise State. Boise State ran them off the field, 56-24. Ashton Jeanty gets back on schedule with 149 yards and 2 touchdowns, still below 5 yards a carry. So his pace is slowed down dramatically from the initial sprint out of the gates in the regular season. But also Maddox Madsen coming around, man. 24 of 32, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns. And yeah, Boise State, they featured prominently in the first playoff rankings, and they, showed why in this game. San Diego State, rough season, and it didn't get any better in this one, 56-24. That final. Obviously, Boise State's season bears watching from here on out because they're going to be a playoff contender until they lose a game, pretty much. Oregon at Michigan. Oregon got the job done. Didn't really play around with their food. They just dominated this game, 38-17. They get the win. They improve to 9-0. I think you can probably take a shot in the dark, a stab on the board, if you will, and come up with a pretty reasonable and 100% accurate guess on where Oregon featured in the first college football playoff rankings. There's simply nothing more to say about Michigan. We know what they are. We'll see what they become in the years that are going to follow. That weird intonation, weird way of saying that sentence, but you know what I mean. Not much, doesn't bear much watching now for Michigan. What we should be looking at them through the lens of is a long-term timeline. I would say the next 2 years. After this year, that's where we should be watching them, just to see how the program gets built up, but nothing to say about them now. Oregon, best team in the nation, though. I think that's pretty undisputed at this point. They're on fire at the moment, and they're the only team that has looked the part for most of the season. Got out of the gate slow, but for most of the season, they've been money, and I expect that to continue here going forward. But they get the easy win. They take care of business. We'll see if they keep doing that. Georgia beat Florida, but Florida stayed closer than you might have imagined in this game. Now, Georgia gets the win 34-20, and that final score looks like a lot better or worse of a game, I guess. Better game for Georgia, worse of a game for the viewer, I guess, if that makes sense, than it actually was. Florida kept this thing close for a lot of it. Now, we'll have to see what the status of DJ Lagway is. He got carted off for a hamstring injury, which I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure I've watched it. But I don't remember seeing that before, getting carted off for a hamstring injury, so that's wild. Hopefully that's just precautionary, but that's, hey, wild stuff. Wild stuff, folks. But Georgia gets the win. They still don't look impressive. They seem to only this year get up for big games. So I have no worries about them this coming week against Ole Miss, obviously. You got to have some concerns for Georgia with how they've looked. Now, they're ranked highly, and they've won every game except the Bama game, and even in that one, they gave it a good run in order to come back on that one. Just, Kalen DeBoer had the best quarter of his life, essentially, as a coach in that first quarter of that game. Nothing you can really do about that, and it, ultimately sank him in the end. But, I mean, outside of that little blunder, they've won every game they've been in, but it's just looked disconnected. A lot of the same problems that we've been seeing this whole time. They don't necessarily have a running game that can impose its will upon you, which they should given the personnel, but they just don't. I think that speaks a lot to the offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo. Also, the passing game, it does speak a lot to Mike Bobo, but Carson Beck's not blameless in this. He was expected to be much better this year than he has been. He's been up and down. He's been inconsistent. The numbers looked okay in this one, but his greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. And I'll explain that here just by saying that when you watch Carson Beck play, there's nothing that jumps off the screen at you. Like, he's not hitting like crazy deep balls with this insane accuracy and touch where you're like, wow, that is a hell of a throw right there. But at the same time, he has been turning the ball over. Historically, he doesn't really turn the ball over a whole lot, and he makes the right decision almost every time. So you look up at the end of the day and he's got like 300 yards, and it's just ho-hum, they've beaten the hell out of you in that game. Now, that version of Carson Beck that I described is not the version that we've seen this year. He's not been, particularly great this year. He was expected to be a Heisman contender, and I fully bought into that. I thought Georgia would be a national champion, shoe-in this year at the end of last season, and it's just not shaped out that way. I don't think it's the quality of the roster that is the issue. I think the offense is an issue. I think motivation is an issue. I think there's just it feels like there's a festering culture problem around Georgia, and I have no inside information to back that up. It's just something you observe from the far, and you see all the arrests, you see what's happening on the field, and hey, Kirby Smart is a great coach. He's the best coach we've got in college football right now, bar none. But at the same time, he's got to make some changes, otherwise it just feels like something is brewing here in the future for Georgia, and I don't think it's anything pleasant, but it just feels like I don't know what you're going to get from Georgia on a weekly basis. Now, that being said, it seems like in the big games, sorry about that, they've shown up in a big way. They get up for those big, hyped-up matchups, so you got to watch out for that first round of the playoffs, assuming that they don't win the SEC, which is, by the way, not a foregone conclusion. But during the regular season, I think they're going to show up when it counts. It's just a matter of, do they fall asleep at the wheel one too many times? We'll find out down the stretch. Good luck, Florida. Just good luck. Who would have thought Florida State was going to be the brief moment of respite for you in this home stretch of the schedule? We didn't think there was going to be any brief moment of respite for you at the end of the schedule, but good luck. Good luck. Not everyone is going to survive, okay? I'll just put it that way. And I'm not talking literally, I'm talking figuratively, but not everyone is going to survive on that one. Prayers out to you. Prayers out to you, Florida. Okay, Miami gets the win over Duke, 53-31. Cam Ward's looking like the Heisman frontrunner right now. Miami is 9-0 at the moment. I think we have a pretty good idea of what Miami is at this point, and I don't think what they are is good enough by itself to win a national championship. What they are is they are a great offense with a really bad defense. And pretty much any team is going to be able to score on them. That's the bottom line right now. I mean, Miami's a sieve on the defensive side of the ball here. And offensively, you got a quarterback like Cam Ward, and that'll score you a whole lot of points. Ultimately, though, barring a historic and iconic postseason run for Cam Ward and co., I just don't see Miami making a run at this thing. Now, if they can get hot at the right time, if ever there was a year where a team could come out of, not nowhere because they're 9-0 in the ACC, but, kind of take some people by surprise with how well they do in the postseason. If ever there was a year to kind of come out hot, this year would be the year because really, outside of Oregon, everyone else looks gettable right now. But that's really the only way that Miami makes a deep run in my mind at this postseason, is if Cam Ward just plays some of the best college football that we've ever seen. And frankly, I do think he's capable of it, just based on he had 400 yards in 5 touchdowns in this game. And he slings the ball all around the yard, and he is not afraid to make mistakes. He's not afraid to push the ball and push the envelope down the field. Not sure if those two kind of combine in that way, but we're just gonna breeze right past it here. But yeah, I don't necessarily believe in Miami in the long run unless Cam Ward gets hot in that way. Okay, Tennessee took care of business versus Kentucky. Was it pretty? No. Did it make me any money? Also no. But they did get the win. The defense, giving up 18 points to Kentucky, not great, but you look a little bit closer to that. It was 28-10 entering the fourth quarter. And, Kentucky scored, a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, but it was never really that close. Come on, guys. But still, same problems with Tennessee. Offense, at this point, I just don't think it's going to come around, but Dylan Sampson is incredible in that backfield, and they're riding him like a prize stallion right now because Nico is not quite at the level that they were hoping he would be in year one. The defense continues to prove itself as the best unit that Josh Heupel has ever had, though, and I think ultimately it's a formula where if Nico just kind of gets maybe not hot, but plays really consistently solid football at the right time down the stretch of this season, Tennessee very much could make a title run at this thing because the defense is that good, and there's no one team that is going to run you out of the building, it feels like, this year in college football. So I feel like Tennessee, I believe in Tennessee much more than I believe in Miami. I'll just put it that way. Okay, maybe not much more. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I do believe in Tennessee more than I believe in Miami right now, and it is due in, almost entire part that defense and that running game in tandem with one another. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do down the stretch. They have got some big matchups coming up, most prominently one with Georgia coming up on the schedule. So, hey, they got a chance to really prove themselves and maybe even make an SEC title run. We'll see what they do with this. We will see what they do with this. Okay, South Carolina lost me some money. They hosted Texas A&M, and they got the win 44-20. This was a blowout from start to finish, pretty much. Well, really not start to finish. Texas A&M came back, made a game of it there in the second quarter. Got it tied at halftime, but scoreless in the second half, Texas A&M. They got outscored 24-0, and that's how you get to that final score, 44-20. Maybe we just crowned Texas A&M a little bit too early. Now, all credit in the world to South Carolina. They're a rock-solid football team, and they are much better than I thought they would be after Old Dominion took them down to the wire. They are really rounded into form. Lenora Sellers, still not a great passer, but he's pushing the ball down the field, and they are getting big-time contributions out of the run game. Rocket Sanders went wild in this one. 144 yards, over 7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He was sensational in this one. And, hey, South Carolina, they are not a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination. At 3 losses, I think it's pretty safe to assume they are not a playoff team. They can play spoiler, though, down the stretch. Now, we got to take a look at their schedule. I might have just said that preemptively, and they might not have any big games left. But Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it's ended up. The biggest one is probably Clemson. They could spoil, I mean, they could, fire the last nail into the coffin there for Clemson. But yeah, they can't really play much of a spoiler. At this point, hey, just go out and win the rest of your games. You come out here, you win 4 in a row, finish the regular season 9-3. I believe true freshman quarterback Lenora Sellers, maybe redshirt freshman. Either way, first-year starter quarterback. A lot to build off of in the coming year if you are Shane Beamer and co. So, good win for them. I think they can make some noise down the stretch, but I don't necessarily think they're going to make noise in a way that is meaningful to the playoff picture. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. And, hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hey, that was profound, wasn't it? But hey, all the credit in the world to South Carolina. Maybe we crown Texas A&M a little bit too early. 2 losses though, still not really out of it. They just got their first SEC loss. If they win out, they're gonna make the playoff. Make no mistake about it. Maybe they are. Maybe they don't make the SEC title game, and they are not like one of the automatic bids. I could still see them getting an at-large bid with 2 losses in an SEC schedule. I mean, it's more than doable at this point. So that's something to watch down the stretch, but they got to get the quarterback situation figured out before I believe in them as a football team. I got faith in Mike Elko to get this thing done and get this figured out, or at the very least build around Marcel Reed in a way that's gonna maybe take you to a championship. I believe very much in what Mike Elko's doing there. But year 1, I would say ahead of schedule, but still some work to do. Great start, though, for him. Just tough Saturday. Okay, so Texas Tech goes on the road, and classic Big 12 chaos here. They were double-digit underdogs. Iowa State at home, big time atmosphere in Ames. Texas Tech just comes in and shocks them, 23-22. This game was, I lost money on this one too. Fun fact, I did not win a single bet over the weekend. It's maybe the worst betting weekend I've had in my entire life. I mean, it's crazy. I bet only straights too. Only straight bets, all losses. Incredible. Like, hey, if I would have just gone against my instincts every time, buddy, we'd be sitting pretty right now. We would be sitting pretty, but that's just not what happened. Enough of that lamenting the past, though. We're moving on to the future, okay? We're getting back over 500 this week, I hope. So Texas Tech, all the credit in the world to them. At 2 losses in the Big 12, a title run seems unlikely, but they can still make some noise here. They've got some big games coming up left on the schedule here. But Iowa State. Goodness gracious, that word is hard for me today. For Iowa State, this is a gut punch. You needed to keep winning to keep pace with BYU, and make no mistake about it, they're not out of it. They're not dead by any stretch of the imagination. If they keep winning, everything's going to work out. They're probably going to the Big 12 title game. It's not a guarantee anymore, though, because you got that 1 loss in the schedule. And in the Big 12, that is fun, well-balanced, but admittedly weak. You're going to have to win the rest of your games if you want a shot at certainly a Big 12 title and an automatic bid into the playoff, but even as maybe an at-large bid. Now, basically, I'm telling you, I don't think an at-large bid is possible for Iowa State. 2 losses in the Big 12 compared to how many 2-loss teams that I believe there will be in the Big 10 and the SEC. Someone's just going to have to get bumped out at that point, and Iowa State would be the one. But at the very least, if you win and get all the way to the Big 12 championship game, you give yourself a chance. You're going to have to win out to go to the playoff at this point, though. There is, especially in the Big 12, no more margin for error for them. Texas Tech, who do they have coming up? I think I might have bet against them this week. No, I did not. They're playing Colorado this upcoming week. So, hey, once again, they could be pissing in some wholesale Cheerios here, folks. They're probably out of the Big 12 title race unless everything just goes haywire here in the last couple weeks of the season. But hey, they could still make some noise and ultimately finish with a nice little season here when it's all said and done. Watch out for the Red Raiders, man. They are the exemplification of what the Big 12 is this year. Okay, Louisville, boy, oh boy, this is another game I lost money on. I could be saying that for a long time here. Louisville goes on the road to Clemson and just embarrasses them. Just an embarrassment of a performance here for Clemson. They, made it a little bit of a game of it there in the fourth quarter, made it look a little bit closer than it actually was. But at one point, entering the fourth quarter, now let me do the math right here. Okay, I've got it. I'm good at simple addition here. 26-7 entering the fourth quarter. Louisville was up in this game. And hey, we've seen bigger comebacks before, of course. But you're getting worked down 26-7 going into the fourth quarter. And Clemson just showed they don't have the offense to come back in that situation. And hey, once again, the problems with Clemson kind of rear their ugly heads. We don't have to rehash that again. I feel like every other week I'm doing a little bit of a rant on Dabo, but it's worth acknowledging they don't believe in using the portal, and they haven't exactly nailed it on all of their recruits. Haven't exactly nailed it on all the coordinator hires along the way as well. And hey, when you're just not using a tool that the rest of your competition is using, hey, Clemson's just not going to be at the level that they should be. And we'll see if they ever deviate from that strategy. But I don't believe that they will. And this is kind of what we're going to see from Clemson here in the years to come. They're going to be a very good team, but not quite on a level where you expect them to win a title. And hey, like I said, until things change, it's just the reality of the situation. Hey, all the credit in the world to Louisville. They have turned it around, though. They have gotten much better throughout the course of this season, and they're playing some really good football right now. Indiana goes on the road to Michigan State, and they just continue just beating the piss out of people. 47-10 over Michigan State. Now, I mean, Michigan State jumped out to a 10-0 lead in the first quarter, and we were like, oh, buddy, maybe Indiana has met their match and they're going to fall by the wayside. Then they proceeded to reel off 47. 4-7. That is 4 dozen plus 3, my friends, points unanswered on Michigan State. Just another bludgeoning from Indiana. They were rewarded for it this week, and I expect them to continue climbing the rankings if they keep winning like this. Curt Cignetti, and hey, I'm sure I've said this before, but it's worth reiterating. That matchup with Ohio State in a couple weeks might as well be an audition for Curt Cignetti over at Ohio State. Because if Ryan Day doesn't live up to expectations, basically, if he doesn't win the Big Ten and at the very least make a deep national title run, they're looking for a new coach. I'll tell you that right now. And Curt Cignetti, boy, does he look like an attractive candidate at the moment. So something to watch there, something to keep in mind. But if Indiana keeps winning like this, no question in my mind. They could lose that Ohio State game, and it'd be a bit of a question mark. But ultimately, I think a one-loss Indiana team is getting in the college football playoff. It's going to be a little bit dicey there because you're flirting with the 9-10 or 9-12 rankings there. No guarantee, especially if one of those big brands is kind of lurking there with 2 losses. You could get bumped out, but I still think a one-loss Indiana team by merit should be in the playoff. They're sitting pretty right now. 9-0. Who would have thought that they would have been here? I certainly didn't. I don't think necessarily anyone outside of Indiana really believed in that. But hey, all the credit in the world to them. They were playing some of the best football in the nation, and Curt Cignetti is making more money with each passing week. And if it keeps trending like this, the price is going to be exorbitant by the time it's all said and done. So again, something to watch as we move down the stretch here. Kansas State kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, kind of got lost in the shuffle, but they sustained their second loss of the season to Houston. I think that pretty much puts the nail in the coffin for a Big 12 title run and certainly a playoff berth run. Basically, Kansas State's going to have some chaos in the Big 12, and they're just going to have to win out and win the Big 12 championship if they want to get in the playoff at this point. It's basically over, barring getting incredibly hot from here on out. Losing to Houston on the road. Now, all the credit in the world to Willie Fritz. Sneaky 4-5. sneaky, not quite as bad as I thought they were. Bowl eligibility is within striking distance. They are not a very good football team, so all the credit in the world to Willie Fritz for pulling some rabbits out of hats and making some magic happen down there. And credit to him for winning games with Kevin Barbay as your offensive coordinator. That takes skill. That takes some real coaching skill. I'll tell you that right now. But they're not a very good team. Kansas State, if you wanted any chance of continuing, hopes for the playoff, you had to win this game. Everyone knew it. They're just not good enough this year, unfortunately. And we'll see what the future holds for them with Avery Johnson, see if they stick with him going forward. I'm not sure they got a whole lot of better options, but he's been a real disappointment for them at Kansas State this season. Very inconsistent, has not quite lived up to the hype that he had preseason. Thinking maybe they wish Will Howard was still around. Just a thought lingering in my mind. So we had... Yeah, kind of saw this one coming a little bit. You were hoping Pittsburgh would hang with them a little bit more, but the only other ranked matchup this week outside of Ohio State, Penn State, Pittsburgh went on the road to SMU. They go down to Dallas, and SMU just ran them off the field, man. 48-25, the final score. I can't remember. Maybe I did bet on SMU. I either bet on them or came dangerously close to betting on them and decided not to, which would be very on brand for me. But SMU ultimately, it just felt like going into this thing that they kind of had this thing in the bag. Now you still got to play the game, but it felt like SMU was a more battle-hardened football team, playing better football, frankly, and Pittsburgh was kind of, working off of an easy schedule by Power 4 standards for sure. And yay, 48-25, SMU, they're undefeated in the ACC. I don't think people are talking about them as a playoff contender, but I mean, if they keep winning like this, a one-loss SMU, okay, if they go to the ACC title game, assuming that they win out, it would be 2 losses if they lose to Miami. Obviously, a one-loss SMU is winning the ACC title, so they would be an automatic bid. But 2 losses, maybe not in. Now, 1 loss, you are in. Now, SMU, it seems like they're just going to have to keep winning as I talk that through and make dumb statements out of my mouth. But hey, they're still very much alive. Now, I don't think people realize just how close SMU is to kind of putting themselves in the playoff conversation, especially if Miami takes another loss. This thing can get a little bit interesting for SMU down the stretch. Now, that's one to watch. Pittsburgh, not technically numerically out of it, but I think we've seen what Pittsburgh is in this game. A solid team, a much improved team, all the credit in the world to Pat Narduzzi. They're just... they weren't as good as that 7-0 record would indicate. So SMU bears watching. Pittsburgh, I don't think so much. I think even with the 1 loss, I think it's pretty much over for them at this point. Okay, Ole Miss. Whew, you want to talk about putting up a big time performance? Ole Miss beat Arkansas 63-31. They covered the over by themselves. If Arkansas didn't score a single point, Ole Miss would have hit the over on its own, and you would have cashed. Now, you got to be a little bit worried about the 31 points given up, but by God, by the time they started giving up points, they were up 35-10 at halftime. So it was never really close. It was close after the first quarter, but 28-7, Ole Miss outscored them in the second quarter. That was the biggest quarter they had. Jackson Dart in this one set a school record for yards in a game. He went 25-31, 515 yards and 6 touchdowns. 5 of them to, now let me get his name right because he did catch 5 touchdowns. Jordan Watkins coming out of nowhere. Basically kind of pressed into duty because Trey Harris was out for this game. Jordan Watkins goes 250-ish yards, 5 touchdowns in this game. 254 yards to be exact, and Ole Miss right back in that playoff discussion, man. Now, they got 2 losses. They're going to have to keep winning from here on out. But at this point, maybe avoiding the SEC championship is a blessing in disguise, because if you win out from here, you're kind of sitting pretty. if you end the season with 2 losses. Probably not a bad resume to make the playoff as a 2-loss SEC team that's been through some pretty good tests. Even this Arkansas matchup. Now, Arkansas is not some world beater, but it's a tough home atmosphere that they have. And Ole Miss going on the road and beating them like they did, it bears noting for sure. So I like Ole Miss's chances if they win out of making the playoff, even if they don't go to an SEC championship game, because let's face it, the SEC is a 3-4 bid league. That's a fact. Unless some real chaos happens in the SEC, I think a 2-loss SEC team in most cases is going to make its way into the college football playoff. And hey, Ole Miss, all they got to do is take care of business from here on out, and easier said than done with what they've got coming up. But hey, it's all on the table for them right now, as much as that does pain me to say. They might score 100 points on Mississippi State when they play. Boy, oh boy. We'll talk about Mississippi State here in just a bit. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this week of all times, but not great. Did I mention in the last episode that Will Reichard and Andrew DePaula, the long snapper for the Minnesota Vikings, both went on IR, and Reichard is expected to miss more than that 4-week time frame for IR. So, yeah, mixed bag this weekend. Yeah, got a couple wins, a couple key losses injury-wise that I wish would stop happening. Outside of that, you know what? Mixed bag. But that's beside the point. This is not an NFL episode. Although trade deadline did happen. And you know what? I am going to hit on that. That's on me. Malpractice not to hit that at the top of the episode. But let me wrap up Ole Miss here real quick. They're pretty good. They have everything in front of them still left on this schedule. Very much in the mix for the playoffs. Arkansas, who the hell knows what's going to happen to Sam Pittman after this year? I feel like he's probably done a good enough job if things hold the way that they're going to stay another year. But vibes are, again, another mixed bag over there at Arkansas. So we'll see what happens on that one. Now, trade deadline. I'm going to try and get all of this from memory. At the very least, hit the big ones. And you can feel free to flog me if I don't hit them all. But biggest one of the day, Commanders get Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints on a trade. Big time thing for him. It was the biggest area of need. It's what all the fans wanted him to go get, a big time cornerback, and now they have it. That's big. I think certainly a playoff contender. I think they're inching closer to a possible Super Bowl contender, and that is going to be something that we are going to have to watch down the stretch for the Commies here. They are not a loaded football team, but a very, very good football team, and made a big-time move at the trade deadline. The fans are very happy in a way that they have not been for a long, long time in Washington, D.C. So shout out to them. More accurately, Landover, Maryland, but who's keeping track? So yeah, outside of that, we had Mike Williams getting traded from the Jets over to the Steelers. Sure, why not? I guess makes sense. I suppose. Cool. That's all I've got to say about that. I mean, it's an upgrade, which I think speaks more to the Steelers' wide receiver core than it does to the quality of the trade. But hey, better than nothing. You work with what you got. Maybe Russell unlocks something in Mike Williams. We'll find out. But hey, Steelers still a solid football team, so we'll see where they go down the stretch here. Outside of that, Packers kind of shocked some people. They traded Preston Smith to goodness gracious. It's a team that already had a very good pass rush. It was the Steelers, wasn't it? Yeah. It was the Steelers. Yeah, Preston Smith goes to the Steelers for a 7th-round pick. So I kind of like what the Steelers did at the trade deadline. You got a wide receiver, probably the best option that you were going to get at wide receiver, and then you turn around and you just kind of lean into the strengths. If you're not going to completely address the weaknesses, might as well just lean into your strengths. Already had a really good pass rush, add another quality pass rusher in Preston Smith. Preston Smith? Is it right? Is that right? Yeah. We're just that's correct. I don't know why I'm questioning myself right now. Up and down episode in this one. Up and down episode so far. So Yeah, he goes to the Steelers. So outside of that, there is one. Oh, yes. The biggest head scratcher of the day. Cowboys should have been sellers at the trade deadline. Dak Prescott just went on IR with a pretty serious hamstring injury. You're staring right down the barrel of Cooper Rush starting for the stretch run here. They should have been selling. Instead, they trade for Jonathan Mingo from the Panthers, which by itself, if you can get him for a nice cheap discount price, why not? Why not take a flyer on him? They traded a 4th round pick for him, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I get he's a young player, and I mean, I still don't know why the Packers did this. I guess, maybe they're seeing something in Preston Smith that the rest of us aren't, but he did get traded for a 7th round pick, and I feel like he's a more impactful player than Jonathan Mingo right now. That one doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not going to lie, I did laugh when I saw what the compensation was for Jonathan Mingo. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Does not make a whole lot of sense whatsoever. So there's that. I think that's pretty. I mean, I guess Khalil Herbert went to the Bengals, needed some depth there behind Chase Brown. Now that Zach Moss is probably out for the season with that neck injury. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on. Not really much going on. So back to college football. So Army took care of business. They're 8-0. They get a win over Air Force, 20-3. Air Force sneaky 1-7. Nothing sneaky about it really. They really stunk. But Army 8-0. I believe their quarterback was out for this one. Have to monitor that going forward. But still undefeated. Setting up a big matchup here in a couple weeks versus Notre Dame. Illinois, I think they have officially turned to a pumpkin. Minnesota, sneaky solid team. Minnesota 6-3. They improved to 6-3. They get the win on the road at Illinois. They're playing some all right football right now. Minnesota, not pretty to watch by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll be damned if they haven't won some football games this year, including a big one against USC, another big one here against Illinois. Hey, I see you, Minnesota. You're not doing too bad right now. Hey, good for y'all. Good for y'all, all right? Illinois, on the other hand, yeah, they're just not all that good. I mean, they're a fine enough football team. They're okay. They're obviously already bowl eligible, so all the credit in the world to them. But they're just not quite good enough, I would say, to compete. Certainly not good enough to compete. They're just not that great. They shouldn't be a ranked team, is what I'm saying, and I don't think they were ranked in the first college football playoff rankings. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So let me read that for a second. Yeah. Something to monitor. Nothing really worth bringing up right now, but that's top 25. Illinois, semi-fraudulent. It is what it is. I'm just calling it how I see it here. Okay, so let's make our rounds around the Power 4, see if there's any matchups we missed that bared mentioning. NC State over 500. They win 59-28 over a really bad Stanford team. Syracuse beat Virginia Tech 38-31. Still, not a bad first season there for Fran Brown. 6-2. We'll see if they can keep it going from here. But hey, not bad at all. Not anything to hang your head about so far this year. North Carolina does the expected, beats Florida State 35-11. 1-8 now, Florida State. They are maybe the worst team in all of college football. They are right down there in the bottom. I'll tell you that right now. Just a head-scratchingly terrible football team. It is the situation is dire. Just nothing short of dire at the moment. And hey, good luck to you, Florida State fans. You reap what you sow, though. You reap what you sow. This is some good cosmic judgment on you. Okay, so that's the ACC. Already hit on the others. Arizona State. Still a sneaky solid team here in Kenny Dillingham's second year. 42-21, they win over Oklahoma State, who stinks. 0-6 in the Big 12. They're awful. Just a bad, stinky football team. Gross every time they're on my TV screen. Hey, Cam Scattaboo, 153 yards in the ground. Sam Levitt, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns. Watch out for this Arizona State team, man. They're playing some inspired football right now, and that's a situation that's hey, they already have 2 losses in the Big 12. It's going to be an uphill battle, but don't be shocked if Arizona State makes some noise down the stretch here. They are also the epitome of what chaos can mean in the Big 12. They're a wild card in this thing. They are a conference full of wild cards right now, except for Oklahoma State. They fucking stink. They're real bad. Also Arizona and UCF for that matter, who played each other this past week. And would you believe it? I was dumb enough to bet on Arizona. I don't think I published that pick. I think I just kind of, a whim took hold of me. I took some bad advice, and next thing you know, UCF's winning 56-12. I believe Rizek, their quarterback, is a freshman at the moment. He went 20 of 25 for 294, 3 touchdowns. And yeah, he is a freshman. He is a freshman from local product from around there. Well, not in Central Florida, obviously, but Delray Beach, in the area, in the Panhandle, if you will. So that's encouraging. Well, not the Panhandle. Panhandle is totally different. On the peninsula. Sorry, on the peninsula, if you will. I apologize to all the Florida listeners out there. Please flog me. I deserve it in this context. So, hey, future's looking bright for UCF. Still not a very good football team, but hey, got a good running back in Rufus Harvey. Seems like he found something with this backup quarterback, Dylan Rizek. We'll see what happens down the stretch here. They can make some noise as well. Obviously not a playoff team. By God, they're not a playoff team, but could be a spoiler down the stretch here. Could be pissing in some Cheerios. A lot of piss going in a lot of Cheerios here in the Big 12. And that's just, hey, that's just something you're going to have to live with if you're a team in the Big 12. You just got to try not to get an ounce of piss in your Cheerios, and you're all golden. Except for not really. Just only white milk in here, unless it's colored the color of whatever cereal that you've got. This metaphor has gone on entirely too long. Let's keep it moving. Baylor beat TCU 37-34. Another matchup of teams that aren't great, but any given weekend could beat any team in the Big 12. BYU did not play this weekend, and that's probably a good thing, especially with Iowa State losing. I think they come out not too bad out of this past weekend. Not too bad at all. Moving on to the Big Ten, Northwestern won in a thriller at Purdue, 26-20. Hand up, I didn't watch this game, but absolute banger for those of you that did. All you sickos that tuned in to Northwestern Purdue, you got a treat out of it. And that's just something that you get every once in a while when you are a true sicko. And I respect you for it. If you're watching Northwestern Purdue, first off, call the helpline. I know you had money on that one. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Just call the 1-800 number. Look up the gambling resources in your state. Call the hotline. But also, credit to you for being a football fan. If you were the small minority that wasn't watching this game because you had money on the outcome. Fun game, but also who cares? Good for Northwestern though, 4-5. Not a great football team, but hey, not super terrible. Not the stinkiest team in the world. Purdue is a really stinky team. Really, I mean, you can smell them from here. And Indiana's not too far from Ohio, but it's far enough to where I shouldn't be able to smell them. I can smell just stanky Boilermaker all the way from over here. They're just not very good at all. They're right down there with Mississippi State, am I right? For a worse team in the Power 4. Okay, UCLA made me look foolish. Not only did Nebraska not cover the 6.5 number, they lost this game against UCLA at home, 27-20. Nebraska, boy, have they been disappointing down the stretch. Their true freshman quarterback, Dylan Raiola, is starting to look like a true freshman quarterback as we've gone on throughout this season. Had a good showing against Ohio State, but yeah, just a year too early. We got ahead of us. We got ahead of ourselves, and by us, I mean I got ahead of myself on that one. I think they're probably blacklisted from the bets going forward. It is what it is there. Hey, all the credit in the world for UCLA getting their second Big Ten win. But yeah, I think this speaks more to Nebraska than the quality of UCLA's football team. But again, all the credit in the world to them. I may or may not be betting against you again this weekend, but we'll see here in a second. Iowa beats Wisconsin, beats the hell out of Wisconsin. 42-10. Caleb Johnson, once again, tore shit up in this game, 135 yards, 3 touchdowns. Iowa sneaky has a quarterback that can run this year. Brendan Sullivan, 9 carries, 58 yards and a touchdown. Also threw for a touchdown on just 10 attempts. They're basically running the triple option at Iowa right now. They're playing good football. Now, they've got those 3 losses that are going to preclude them from making any sort of playoff noise, but hey, Iowa's playing good football right now. They're playing some really, really good football. A shame that they don't play another Ohio State game or something like that down the stretch. But hey, it is what it is. We can be happy with what we got with Iowa, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that at this moment in time. And of course, Washington beat USC. Just an abomination of a football team, USC. They're benching Miller Moss this week. I forget the name of the backup that's coming in for him, but that's a desperation move. That's a man that knows if he doesn't do something, he's going to lose his job. But he already got 5 losses. I think that ship has sailed. I think he's probably gone after this year. And we'll see where he goes. We'll see where he goes. Now, the funniest outcome is if the Bears pull an Arizona Cardinals, if you will, hire an underperforming college head coach to be your head coach because Caleb Williams was the prodigy, the last real prodigy that learned underneath of Lincoln Riley. And hey, you bring in his offensive guy, everything's kumbaya and everything is great here going forward. Just never mind the fact that he's shown an inability up until this point to hire a defensive coordinator. He did nail it with D'Anton Lynn, but let's not pretend that wasn't a problem already coming into this. That would be the funniest outcome. I think the more likely outcome, I don't think Lincoln Riley is back in college next year. I think he's probably a little bit tired of the college game right now. I think he ends up as an offensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL. I don't think it would be a good idea to hire him as a head coach straight off of this job. I think he needs to take a step back and learn a little bit. Kind of got just a lot like Ryan Day just walked into the job at Oklahoma, was the hand-picked successor for Bob Stoops over there at Oklahoma, and did very, very well at Oklahoma, but he hasn't been, in the background for quite some time. I think it would do him a lot of good to kind of sit back and learn. He's still kind of young in terms of head coaches. He's going to get another shot at being a head coach, but I just think for right now, it'd be good for him to go be an offensive coordinator somewhere. I think he's going to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL next year. Now, I'm not sure if he gets that Bears head coaching job. If he doesn't get the head coaching job, though, I would not be shocked at all if he comes in as the offensive coordinator. And I think that's a role that he could really thrive in. And I think it would do well for Caleb Williams, as much as that would hurt my heart as a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan. But that's one to watch. I think no matter what, I think he ends up as an offensive coordinator next year, though. It'd be hard for me to see him being a head coach somewhere else right off the bat, and I just don't think that's a good idea for him. Washington, 4-5 though. Good for y'all. Good for y'all, man. The sneaky 3-3 in the Big Ten. I don't know. They're right about where we thought they would be. They're putting out an okay showing this year. Just an okay run-of-the-mill showing, and that's okay. That's okay for this season. Okay, so last bit here. Let's clean up the end. Let's talk about, again, why just accidentally clicking on things. What is wrong with me right now? So let's see if we missed anything. Oh yeah, Oklahoma ran Maine off the football field, 59-14. Who cares? Who cares on that? Vanderbilt beat Auburn, 17-7. Vanderbilt becomes bowl eligible in a big time way. Now, who would have thought that sentence would ever come out of my mouth? Vanderbilt goes on the road and beats Auburn 17-7, but I'll be damned, that's exactly what happened. That just crazy stuff. Crazy stuff when you think about it. Auburn, they are bad. They are real bad. And we'll see if nothing else, Hugh Freeze has been tantalizing with the recruiting so far. Now, the on-field performance has not been good, but he's getting you a lot of young talent. It's just a matter of you're going to have to go in the portal and get a quarterback this coming offseason. No more Peyton Thorne, man. I don't know if he has any eligibility left. I don't think it necessarily matters in this situation. He can't run it back with Peyton Thorne again, even if he is eligible, which I think this is his last year no matter what. But Yeah, you need a quarterback in there, man. 1-5 in the SEC. They are really, really bad. One of the worst teams in the SEC, right down there next to your boy Mississippi State's team. Though I have no doubt in my mind, if Auburn played Mississippi State this year, Peyton Thorne would look like the best quarterback in college football, because I've seen it happen week after week after week. But it didn't happen this week, folks. It did not happen. Okay? It didn't happen. All the credit in the world to Vanderbilt. All the credit in the world to Diego Pavia. When Hugh Freeze closes his eyes at night, he has nightmares of Diego Pavia. This is 3 straight years with Hugh Freeze at, well, let me just explain it to you this way. So Diego Pavia at New Mexico 3 years ago, he beats Liberty. Basically keeps them out of any sort of dark horse playoff contention. They were going to be 13-0 that year if New Mexico didn't beat them. New Mexico does beat them. That's the first loss that Hugh Freeze sustained to Diego Pavia. The next year at Auburn, New Mexico beats the hell out of Auburn again. Diego Pavia gets a win there against Hugh Freeze. And then once again in this one at Vanderbilt, he just can't escape Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia gets another win, 17-7. Boy, Hugh Freeze, again, he has nightmares of Diego Pavia when he goes to sleep at night. I guarantee you of that. That's a fact. But yeah, hey, all the credit in the world to Vanderbilt. They are much better than I think most people thought that they would be. And that, hey, little golf clap for you. Little golf clap. Mississippi State is bad, but we did beat UMass 45-20. We got the second win. Hey, I didn't even. I'll tell you what. Vibes in the group chat were dire after the first quarter. We were down 10-0 against UMass, and I'll tell you what. Maybe one of the darkest moments that I've had as a sports fan. Shit got real dark real quick after that first quarter, and depression was overwhelming in a way that I cannot describe. But hey, after that, all good. 35 unanswered. Stretch that lead to 35-10 going into the fourth quarter. You keep it consistent at that 25-point lead. Good. That's all I needed. That's all I needed from this game. The defense still sucks, but hey, we got our second win. There's probably not another win on the schedule. I'd be overjoyed if we could get a win in the Missouri game. But I'm not holding my breath on that one because the defense is so god-awful. Hey, got to celebrate, though. Got to celebrate these wins when we get them. 45-20. Let's savor this while we got it now, because there's just not going to be much more of this left, quite frankly. With that, though, that is it for this past week of college football. That is in the books. So, with that said, let's take a look at this week's college football playoff rankings. The very first college football playoff rankings. So, starting off at number 1, no real surprise there. It's Oregon. They're the best team in the nation. They've looked like it. Obviously, no problem there. Ohio State all the way up at number 2 after their win against Penn State, and that'll make a lot more sense when you see where Penn State is ranked. So number 3, they have got Georgia. So I get it. Georgia's not looked fantastic. Ohio State hasn't really looked fantastic either. Kind of a pick 'em there. I don't have a problem with that ranking. Miami all the way up at number 4. They're ranked higher than I probably would rank them, even with the 0 losses on the schedule. They've just looked shakier than Texas at number 5. I think 5 is probably a good spot for Miami, so still in the right ballpark. But I would still probably put them at 5 at this very moment. But as of right now, Texas sits at 5. At number 6, we have got Penn State, which is much higher than I thought that they would be coming off of that loss to Ohio State. But that just seems to be the way that the committee feels about Ohio State and how they feel about Penn State. I think with the body of work up until this past week for Penn State, I think that's done a lot for credibility's sake in the area of the college football playoff committee. Weirdest way I could have possibly said that, but you know what I mean. Tennessee is at 7. Don't have a problem with them there, but I feel like I feel better about Tennessee than I do about Penn State. I'll just put it to you that way. Indiana is at 8. Perfectly fine with that ranking. BYU is at 9. I probably would have slotted them in at like 10 or 11. They're undefeated, but let's not act like they've been, beaten up against the cream of the crop here. I mean, there's a reason that they're all the way down at 9, and I think they should probably be lower. Notre Dame is at 10. I don't really have a problem with that ranking. I just kind of have a problem with really just BYU being ahead of them, frankly. Maybe you put them at 9, but I don't have much of a problem with that. Alabama's all the way at number 11. That's pure brand. They should not be at number 11, but it is what it is there. Boise State is at 12, and I think that's mostly a symbolic thing. I think that's mostly just like a nod to, hey, they're the highest ranked G5 team right now. That's why we got them up here. So that I don't think they're really the number 12 best team in the country, but it is indicative of the fact that they are the leader in the clubhouse here in the group of 5. So that's why they're there, in my opinion. SMU's all the way up to number 13. Playing very good football with everything left in front of them. They're a team that bears watching. On the outside looking in now, but we'll see how things shake out down the stretch here. A&M drops to number 14. I have a hard time seeing them make it, but hey, 2-loss SEC team, still got everything in front of them if they win out throughout the rest of the schedule. LSU at 15. Again, another team with everything left in front of them. They're going to have to win out in order to get there, but still, a lot of meat left on the bone for this LSU team if they continue to win. Ole Miss all the way down at 16, a little bit lower than I would have them. I can understand this ranking at 16, but Ole Miss playing better football of late, and you saw it last week with Arkansas. They're a dangerous football team. Another team where, again, you are going to have a bit of a race down the stretch with them if they continue to win as they are currently constructed. Iowa State drops to 17 after their first loss of the season. Understandable given the Big 12 schedule, but they're still very much in this thing if they keep winning. They're just going to have to win out from here. Pittsburgh still steady at number 18. Sure, why not? I mean, probably would have put them in the late 20s, but sure, why not? Kansas State still ranked. Not sure how. We're just going to move past that one. Colorado at 20. Now, they're a sneaky team that, do people realize if Colorado wins out, they are going to the playoff? Like, they control their own destiny for the Big 12. They can get to the title game if they win every game left on their schedule. If they win every game left on their schedule and they win the Big 12 title game, which is very doable with who they have in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders particularly, Colorado could be a playoff team in year 2 under Deion Sanders, and that would deserve a heaping helping of credit to Deion Sanders and crew over there because, hey, you outperformed my expectations big time this year so far, man. It's been fun to watch, and they are a dark horse in the truest sense of the word for the college football playoff right now. They're a team that really bears watching down the stretch here. Washington State at 21. Unfamiliar with their game, but sure, why not? Just why not? Louisville, much deserved ranking at 22. I think they're in a fairly good spot there. They deserve recognition for how they've been playing recently, which they've been playing very, very well. Clemson, 23, still ranked. This is probably about the right spot for them. I don't think they're a terrible football team. I just don't think they're a national title contender or really a serious playoff contender at this point with 2 losses on the schedule. Missouri at 24. Why? I don't even think Missouri's a top 40 team right now. Why is Missouri at 24? Just bump them out. They should not be there. And that's the last thing I'll say on that. Army is at 25, which I get it. Bad strength of schedule. They are undefeated. Like, I would probably take Army over Pittsburgh right now. Now, granted, hey, I'd take Army over Missouri in a heartbeat for sure. Granted, I don't know how much higher you rank them than like 20, but I think they should be ranked a little bit higher than what they're ranked right now. So I got a couple quibbles with the college football playoff rankings as I just laid out there, but for the most part, I pretty much tend to agree with the college football playoff as far as the top 12 is concerned. I guess there's probably an argument for maybe SMU to be slotted in there, but by and large, I think they got the 12 teams mostly right. The order you can quibble with, but I think the 12 teams they got in there is probably about accurate right now. So there you have it. There's the first college football playoff rankings. And hey, we'll check back in next week for what's going on in college football playoff rankings. Let's get to the end of this episode, man. What do we got on the time? What are we doing? Time check. An hour 10? Beautiful. We're doing all right. So let us move ahead to week 11. If I can ever pull this thing up. And we're just going to kind of go down the list here. Already got Lions at -3.5. I'm going to hand out 6 more for you. Good helping of college football in this one. So let's just get into it. So as we're going down the list here, the ranked teams, Ohio State is favored by 38 at Purdue, or not at Purdue, at home versus Purdue. Probably staying away from that. A lot of points. That's a big margin of victory right there, and you never know with Ohio State these days. Miami's favored by 11 at Georgia Tech. If there's a play in this one, it's probably the over at 63.5. I think Miami probably covers, but certainly no guarantee there. Florida is on the road at Texas, and Texas is favored by 21.5. Again, good luck, Florida. I kind of lean them to cover in this game, but I think they probably lose in a fairly substantial manner. Georgia is on the road at Ole Miss. Big time matchup for both of these teams. A de facto elimination game, at least for Ole Miss, maybe for Georgia as well. That's a huge matchup. That is going to be a dandy at 3:30. A true 3:30 matchup for the SEC. Feels like it should still be on CBS, but hey, sometimes you just got to let things go. You just got to let things go from time to time. Michigan is on the road at Indiana. Indiana's favored by 14. 14 is a lot of points. And I still might ultimately bet Indiana with my own hard-earned money, but I made an agreement with myself this weekend. I'm not depositing any more in the account right now. I already deposited enough to make these bets that I'm making. That's it. That's all we're doing this weekend. It's not a problem financially, but we're not going to let it become one. I'll tell you that right now. My bad gambling is not going to put me in a bad situation. I'll tell you that right now. So definitely lean Indiana, but no bet there. Iowa State is on the road at Kansas. They are favored by 3. And if that sounds low to you, well, it sounded low to me too. I got Kansas at 2.5 actually over at Caesars. Got to go check and see if that number's still there. No guarantee that it is, but we locked that in. Iowa State -2.5 at Kansas. I don't know how this line is so slim right now. Does Vegas know something that I don't? Because I just feel like I feel like Iowa State is a must play there at 2.5. Even 3, I'd take them. I just don't know that this game is going to be particularly close. So that's the first bet that we're adding tonight. Clemson is at Virginia Tech. Clemson's favored by 6.5. Lean to Clemson in this one, but I'd like to see how they respond to that loss last week to Louisville. That's a spot where, you know what, it's going to test the culture of the team, and I'm staying away from it just because of the spot that it is right now. We are moving on to the second added bet of the night, though. Colorado is on the road at Texas Tech. Now, I'm leaning Colorado at -3.5, but I noticed I took a heaping helping of road favorites this week. So instead, shifted gears a little bit. Colorado's going to score a lot of points. Texas Tech is going to score a lot of points. Give me the over at 62.5. I added that one in, and it's pretty much 62.5 in most places, so get it where you can. That one has been added to the slates. Lean Colorado on the spread, by the way. I think I said that, but you know, worth mentioning again. Almost moved on this one. Oregon's -25 at home versus Maryland. I think Oregon's going to run them off the football field, but man, 25 is a whole lot of points. I can't bring myself to do it right now, so I will abstain in that respect. Mississippi State is on the road in Neyland at Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 24. I'm not going to bet against my team. I'm 100% sure that we're going to make Nico Iamaleava look like the best quarterback in college football. You can set your watch to that one. I hope we can score points, but with that Tennessee defense, I don't think that's possible. That's just making me more depressed the more I think about it, so we're just going to move on from there. Florida State is at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is favored by 26.5, and I'd still lean Notre Dame pretty substantially. I mean, they could win by 50 in this game. This could be a real embarrassing loss. I think Notre Dame's going to run them off the football field, quite frankly, so there's my lean there. Big-time matchup between Alabama and LSU. Alabama is favored by 3 points, and I liked LSU in this game. Home dog, 3-point home dog, that's a tasty little morsel there if that's what you're into. Just didn't quite meet the smell test for me. I don't necessarily trust LSU either, so decided to stay away from that one, but the lean would definitely be LSU with the +3. Oklahoma is at Missouri. Curiously still ranked Missouri hosts them. Oklahoma is favored by 2.5, and I'd lean Oklahoma. Missouri's just not a good football team. I don't know why they're ranked 24. We're still just clinging to those preseason rankings. They're just not a good football team. Oklahoma's not a good football team either, but I certainly don't think Missouri is a better football team than them. So lean is to Oklahoma. I'm not betting it though. I'm not placing my hard-earned money on Oklahoma. I'll tell you that right now. And I'll tell you what, I am working hard for that money at the moment. That's all I gotta say. Washington is at Penn State. Penn State's favored by 13.5. Very close to taking this one too. I love that 13.5. You get the win on that one. You get the cover with a 2-touchdown lead after regulation. That would be a 2-touchdown win, as some may say. Disgustingly, this game is being broadcast on Peacock. I hate live games on streaming services, man. I detest it. I hate this reality, and I want to go home, Pa. This place sucks. I hate it. I'm not a fan. But I digress on that front. I'd lean Penn State. Didn't quite meet the level of playing it, but I would lean Penn State. Nevada is going on. Jesus Christ, man. All right, let's go back again with the clicking on things that I should not be clicking on and didn't want to click on, quite frankly. Nevada is on the road at Boise State. Boise is favored by 24 points. That's a lot of points. It's a lot of points. The obvious lean is Boise State. But, hey, again, a lot of points. I think Ashton Genty's going to run wild on this one, brother. Ashton Genty already has 20 touchdowns and 1,500 yards. That's hilarious. But, yeah, lean Boise. No bet, though. Virginia is on the road at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's favored by 7.5. That half point scares me. But I do think Pittsburgh wins this one. Slightly into Pittsburgh, but no bet in this one. This one was almost a bet, too. This was like right on the cusp. BYU is on the road at Utah. They getting 3 points. They're laying 3 points. Use the right terminology here, Caleb. -3.5. Again, that was just one of those things where I just can't bet on all road favorites. I just can't bring myself to do it. So staying away from this one. Lean to BYU at the -3.5, though. They're just a better football team than Utah. And I don't think you're really proving much by beating a bad Utah team in this game. But I just think they're a better football team than Utah. I would definitely lean the 3.5 for BYU. And we got Utah State at Washington State, which, again, I forgot Washington State was ranked. Washington State is favored by 20.5 in this game. I don't know. I apologize to Washington State. I don't know a damn thing about that football team. They're 7-1, though. Sneaky 7-1. I had no idea that Washington State was doing this well right now. I guess that'll happen when the Pac-12 is no longer relevant. Sad times we live in right now. Sad times. But that is the, again, clicking on things I didn't want to click on. That is the top 25. Let's see if there are any more matchups. I'm just gonna jump straight to the Big 12 because I know there's one there that I need to add to the slates. UCF is on the road at Arizona. Arizona's laying 3 in this game. I don't think UCF's defense can stop Cam Scatteraboo, and I just don't think UCF is a very good football team. I think Arizona wins this one and they cover this. So I added Arizona State -3. So there you have it. That's the final added bet in college football. Outside of that, That's pretty much the gist of what's going on. See if I missed any major ones here in any of these conferences. At this point, the unranked matchups don't really bear mentioning, but it's worth checking just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So take a look at the Big Ten. I mean, I guess Minnesota's at Rutgers. Minnesota could get their 7th win of the season in this game. They're favored by 6. I don't really trust either of those teams to a great extent. I guess I would trust Minnesota more, but I don't know. I don't really know on that one. Pass. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Big Ten. Let's see if we missed any in the SEC. I think we pretty much hit it all at this point. South Carolina's at Vanderbilt. That's going to be a sneaky good game. South Carolina's favored by 3.5. I would lean Vanderbilt, honestly. They're a feisty football team. This just feels like a spot where this particular version of this Vanderbilt team could come in and shock some people. So that's a sneaky one. I think it's going to be a good game in that 4:15 SEC network slot. Outside of that, we hit on everything else. So yeah, there you go. There you have it. That is the college football recap. I have got... By the way, DJ Lagway is listed as questionable for this upcoming week. Hilarious to get carded off for a hamstring injury and then be listed as questionable the next game. Funny. Just objectively funny. But I got a couple NFL bets to add as well here. So I got the Falcons -3 at the Saints. -3.5 actually at the Saints. The Saints are a terrible football team, a really bad football team, and the Falcons are making a playoff run right now. I'm gonna do it. I don't feel great about it, but I am betting the Falcons as a road favorite, -3.5. Give them to me. And the Cardinals, they are currently at a pick'em against the New York Jets this week over at Caesars. I'm taking that as well. So Cardinals pick'em. All they got to do is win, and we win that bet. Or if they finish in a tie, I believe we get a push. So we're taking the Cardinals out of pick'em. We'll see if that's still available when this comes out. Everywhere else was like -2, -1.5. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how Caesars was all the way down to pick'em, but there you have it. That is the bets for to round things up here. Let's read them off for you. So we got the Lions at -3.5 at the Texans. We have got Iowa -6 at UCLA. I believe I added that earlier. You know what? Actually, come to think of it, I don't think I did. Yeah, Iowa. Sorry, guys. Iowa -6 at UCLA. I think Iowa's going to crush them. I think they're gonna win and win big. I think they're built to do that, this Iowa team. So yeah, also adding Iowa -6. Surprise. Arizona State -3 versus UCF. We did hit on that. Iowa State -2.5 at Kansas. They found that one over on Caesars. Colorado Texas Tech over 62.5. Falcons -3.5 at the Saints, and the Cardinals pick'em over there at Caesars. And there you have it. Those are the 7 bets, and let's hope we don't lose every single one once again. With that said, though, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing twice a week, NFL on Tuesdays, college football on Thursdays, and that's the way it's going to stay going forward from here on out. You can find us everywhere that you may listen to podcast. Well, not everywhere. Most places where you would think about listening to a podcast, you can find me. We have, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You name it. Of ones that you can probably name off the top of your head, we're there. So just go ahead wherever you listen to it, subscribe, share, rate the show. Share it with 15 to 5,000 of your friends. Okay, if each one of you come in with 5,000, we're sitting pretty, man. We are sitting real pretty on the numbers on this podcast. So yeah, do that. Keep on sharing. Follow me on the Twitters at CalebVUA down there in the bottom right hand corner. Also down in the description. If you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM on Twitter or slide into the email over there. It's unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com, and that will be down in the description. So from there, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about, but one thing I learned this week. Ravens, not talking about the team. We're talking about the actual animal here, the giant-ass crows, as you may call them. Ravens can talk like parrots, so they can, mimic speech, and they are actually better at mimicking people's voices. So they can do lifelike, realistic voices in ways that parrots cannot, and it's probably horrifying to come across in the middle of a night, and I'm sure that's part of why ravens are a big part of mythology and whatnot, because sometimes they talk, and it's creepy. And they can mimic sounds really, really damn good. I saw a TikTok of this lady the other day with her pet raven. That raven was making some sounds I ain't never heard from a bird before. That's some demon shit right there. I can understand why people might think ravens are an agent of the devil. That's wild stuff. Ravens are cool as hell, man. Cool as hell. With that, though, that's it. That's it. We're done here. Enjoy the weekend of football. I'm going to erase this fun fact so I don't say it again accidentally on the podcast like it never even happened. It's already gone. And with that, yeah, enjoy the weekend of football, folks. We'll talk again on Tuesday, reconvene with the NFL, and see how things are shaping up in the league over there. So until then, I will talk to y'all later. Have a good weekend, folks.